Hello, everyone. Today's webinar is going to focus specifically on the new SB 373 requirements impacting LEAs and SELPAs with students placed in out-of-state non-public schools. My name is Kimberly Doyle. I'm an education programs consultant with the Non-Public Schools unit at the California Department of Education. I will be presenting today along with my colleague, Matthew Hill, who is also an education programs consultant in the Non-Public Schools unit. Today's webinar is informational and intended to support awareness and implementation planning related to the SB 373 requirements. Your questions may be submitted through the Q&A feature during this presentation. The webinar is being recorded and will be made available at a later date. We'll review the new statutory requirements of SB 373 impacting the California Department of Education oversight and the new responsibilities of LEAs and SELPAs. The beginning of our presentation will focus on the CDE requirements, and then we will transition to LEA and SELPA requirements. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague, Matthew Hill.
Good morning. So what is a certified non-public school? A certified non-public school is approved by the state of California and is a school that is authorized to serve students with disabilities. These schools must meet state requirements and are monitored by the CDE on an ongoing basis. Placement in a non-public school is not automatic. It is made by the IEP team. The California Department of Education certification ensures that the schools meet the standards that are required by law. SB 373 expands the California Department of Education's oversight and monitoring responsibilities for placement in out-of-state non-public schools. Before discussing LEA responsibilities, we will briefly review the new responsibilities of the California Department of Education under SB 373. SB 373 establishes new requirements for the CDE to interview students. There are 4 circumstances in which CDE will interview students. The first is if the non-public school is subject to an investigation. The second is if there is a change in certification status. And the third is during a follow-up visit. The fourth is if there is a pupil level finding from an on-site visit during our monitoring. The CDE interview tool is intended to support the statutory requirements for student interviews by the CDE. The LEAs may choose to use portions of the tool, but if the LEAs remain responsible, the LEAs will remain responsible for ensuring all statutory interview requirements. The CDE tool addresses CDE's interview requirements by the law. There are 4 questions that CDE will be asking to the students during the interviews. SB 373 establishes transparency requirements regarding availability of certification and monitoring information for out-of-state non-public schools. The CDE is required to make available certification status for non-public schools located out of state per the LEA and SELPA request. The CDE is required to make available a summary of findings, including any corrective actions or areas of noncompliance that was used for the basis of the non-public school certification status. The CDE also is required to provide access to relevant documentation used to support that determination. This information is available by request and is specific to the non-public schools located out of the state of California.
So Matthew just covered the requirements of the CDE per SB 373. The following sections outline the new responsibilities assigned directly to LEAs and SELPAs under SB 373. The LEA shall disclose to parents or guardians the information received in paragraph 2, which Matthew just discussed, at the time that the IEP team considers placement of the pupil in an out-of-state non-public school. As an LEA, you should begin thinking about how to document and share this information with the parents or guardians within the IEP process. Education Code 49001 defines corporal punishment, which is outlined here on this slide. SB 373 clarifies that corporal punishment is prohibited in non-public schools, as shown here in bullet C. SB 373 expands procedural safeguard access to include requests made directly by pupils in addition to parents. There are 5 circumstances in which the procedural safeguards shall be provided to parents and students. First, upon initial referral or parent request for assessment. Second, upon receipt of the first state complaint in a school year. Third, upon receipt of the first due process hearing request in a school year. Fourth, when a decision is made to make a removal that constitutes a change of placement. And fifth, upon request by the pupil or parent. The LEA shall review local procedures to ensure requests from parents or pupils are addressed consistently within the procedural safeguard requirements. Okay. So LEAs are required to conduct at least one on-site monitoring visit during the school year. During this visit, all students placed by the LEA shall be interviewed separately in person in a manner consistent with the pupil's IEP to evaluate the pupil's health and safety. The LEA shall report findings from the on-site monitoring visit using the LEA on-site visit for non-public schools form, which is provided on the CDE website. The LEA shall complete this form for each individual student that is placed at the out-of-state non-public school. And the CDE is currently updating the LEA on-site visit for non-public schools form to align with the SB 373 requirements. The updated LEA on-site visit for non-public school form will include a section for a summary of the LEA's interview of the student. One form should be completed for each pupil interviewed. The LEAs may use the CDE interview tool as a resource, but should ensure that all LEA statutory requirements are addressed. I'll turn it over to Matt now.
LEAs are expected to review evidence of positive behavioral supports and implementation practices consistent with statutory requirements. Education Code 563661 establishes a new LEA review requirement related to abuse, neglect protocols, and staff training by the non-public school. SB 373 establishes a quarterly unmonitored check-in phone call requirement for students placed in out-of-state non-public schools. The LEAs should establish a process for conducting and documenting quarterly unmonitored check-in phone call with each student placed in the non-public school. LEAs need to work directly with the non-public school to make sure that these are taking place. Some of the key takeaways. The CD has already undertaken some of the new requirements from SB 373. Some of the examples are student interviews and the development of the CDE interview tool. LEAs and SELPAs should begin reviewing their local procedures and planning for operational implementation beginning July 1 of 2026. Please send any questions regarding these topics addressed in this webinar to the Non-Public Schools Unit by email at nps@cde.ca.gov using the title SB 373 Implementation as a subject in the email. Questions not answered in the Q&A during this webinar may be incorporated into future FAQs or guidance documents. Thank you for attending this informal webinar. Have a good day.